Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Sergio Dominguez. I've been making the Sergio Show ever since 2008, and throughout the series, I've noticed that the show would go through this specific era, and it would be called the 50 episode era. That means every 50 episodes, the show would go through a certain style, a certain type of episode, and a certain way the episode would be produced at the time. And since I started the show at a fairly young age, I've also grown up on the show while making it. So every 50 episodes, not only the show would change, but I would change too. And I would learn things about the show and myself. So I would like to take you through a journey through the eras and see what has changed throughout the series. So let's go through all four parts. This is The Sergio Show, the 50 episode era. The first era. This is the second longest era of the show, mostly because since this was my first time making an animated show, I would just come up with a lot of different things and just make them straightforward. I would take a couple ideas that I would think of on the top of my head. Things like doing random jokes and stunts, time travel, having holiday specials. While working in this era of the show, experienced the most changes in terms of the design of the Sergio character and the settings. The episodes at the time were made very slowly because of both the lack of technology that I had to make the episodes quickly, but also my understanding of the animation software that I was working with and the ability to make an animated show. So this was really hitting the ground running and learning a lot of mistakes. That's why that era seems to have the most awkward decisions. And some of them end up not really aging well, or ultimately had to be edited out in the future. But it wouldn't be until the second era where that idea gets really muddy, but we'll get to it. But at the time, I was fairly young and very excited to make an animated show. Ever since I was little, I loved cartoons and animation, and I wanted my own animated series for myself. So after finding out what the animation software is and bought it and tried using it a little bit, I decided I was ready enough to have my own animated series. It went off to a rough start, but I was so excited and passionate and looking forward to the future that I just went with it. By the time I was finishing that era, when I got to season 5, I understood what kind of episodes I wanted to make when I got to the second era, which was both reviewing other cartoons and having adventures with the Sergio character. And it would be set in a pattern, so one episode you would get review episode, and the other episode you would get time travel episode or original episode. So after starting the series off with a couple of ideas, by the end of that era I did realize what episodes I wanted to make and how to execute it. Then we get to the second era. This is the second fastest era that I've made the show in, only because I had slightly better technology like a laptop, and I had much better manage of my time to make the show and understand what kind of show I wanted to make, since it will be a 10 episode season with 5 episodes of original or maybe sequelized stories and review episodes, and they will be set off in a pattern. That's when I also start organizing the show, where I would catalog each season from season 6 to season 10. So whenever I finish not only an episode but a whole 10 episode season, I can get ready for the next season, check what idea I can work on it, and it'll be finished fairly quickly. Once I understood what kind of show I was making and what kind of episodes I'm making and how I set it up, and once I had a good enough, not a complete understanding, but a good enough understanding of the software that I was working on, I knew reaching 100 episodes before the show's 5th year would be very possible. So getting to that milestone episode, since the first 50 episodes were slow to make, the second era was this catch-up to get to my personal goal of 100 episodes by the show's 5th year. Once I did end that second era with the 100th episode, I was very happy and proud of myself. I was like, I did it! And by the time I was reaching that audience and the show was hitting a certain peak of success and cult-like status, I'd gotten into some trouble, and then the first 100 episodes were completely shut down and I had to re-edit all of them. That was a very tough, devastating, painful, frustrating, scary time for me. But also at the time I was preparing for the third era of the show, so the idea of just moping around or giving up was never an option. Once it happened, I dust myself off and focus on the next era of the Sergio show. The third era. This era of 50 episodes took the longest to make, and that was because of what just happened to the first 100 episodes of the show and what was going on with me personally. It was a very tough time. I had to rebuild in so many ways. both professionally and personally. When all that drama of the first 100 episodes happened, I was already getting ready to work on the third era of the Sergio Show. Since I've learned so much in the first 100 episodes and realized what happened to the show and what I had to change, I realized ultimately I have to go in another complete direction. So time travel episodes had to be minimalized, if not never be used or rarely be used again. As for review episodes and song parodies and other ideas relating to a topic like that, that cannot happen anymore. It just can't. So what am I left with in the third era? Well, there was an idea within the 100th episode that would ultimately be used as season 11, and that is the story arc, where an episode doesn't have to be self-contained anymore. It could have a to be continued. There could be episodes that can be self-contained, but also an episode that has a certain narrative of a certain topic of a certain character that could slowly come back with a new idea, purpose, mission, and that was actually fun. I introduced Evil Sergio in this episode, and he was a big part in season 11, and after season 11, he surely did come back, make an impression, and ultimately leave just within that era. So ultimately, Evil Sergio came out and helped the third era of the Sergio Show, along with leaving out with a bang and by the end of it. Also in this era, I made the decision to make the episodes shorter. You see, my goal within the first 100 episodes is to have each episode be at least 10 minutes long or around that. So once I did meet this goal, I decided to calm down and just make them at least 3 to 5 minutes long, which ended up being very possible once I took that big story arc that was going to be in episode 100 and chop it up into 10 pieces for season 11. Also during this era, I wanted to buy more tools, more software to help put together the show, so it won't be just animation software and very simple editing software. So I got more advanced editing software, I got a specific software to make music, so I can keep the show much more original, so I don't make the same mistake that I did in the first two eras of the Sergio Show. So from the third era onward, I knew I had to make the show really careful in being original in what I've used and not used, and just ultimately be on my animated toes. So it was an unfortunately slow era, but again an era where I was again finding myself, learning mistakes, and growing more experience in making animated cartoons, along with having newer tools to make the show a lot more entertaining, a lot more organically original, and all that magical stuff. But it was within an enclosed era. By the time it ended its era, the show was in its 10th year and 150th episode. And a lot of certain things that happened in that era came to a close, like the Evil Sergio story arc, and certain ideas were taking a back seat. After taking so long in completing the third era, I decided when I get to my next era, not only do I want to make it faster, but I want to make it more fun, more energetic, and more entertaining, but still using more techniques, which we'll get to right now. The fourth era. Now, because I've gotten newer technology, new tools, and a decade of experience in working on the show, this ended up being the fastest era to make. This was also at a time where I was finishing picking up the pieces of the show and pulling myself back together both professionally and personally. So once those were done, I felt so much better and more motivated than ever to make the show. The fourth era of the Sergio Show is a reflection on the second era of the Sergio Show, because at the time that I was getting ready to work on the second era of the Sergio Show, which was the beginning of 2012, I decided to make 50 episodes by the time the show will reach its 5th year, early 2013. And that goal was, for the most part, met. So I decided to bring that idea back to make another 50 episodes once the year 2019 started, make the 50 episodes, and hopefully have this era done as quickly as possible. And it was. This is one of my personal favorite eras because once again, I have more experience than ever working on the show with the animation software and the other softwares that I've bought and used over time. Ultimately, different kinds of Sergios, much more insane ideas, more sequel episodes, but they're still unique in their own special way. Also adding more hand-drawn animation techniques and other special effects, and some more stop motion. This also involved the world the Sergio Show is in, Toon City. Throughout the eras, the Sergio Show lived in Toon City, and there were some places where Sergio would go in Toon City, but in the fourth era, I really want more standout episodes of certain areas of Toon City. and they were some fun locations to draw and execute and have the character experience this. It was ultimately a fun time making the fourth era, where I got to make it crazy fast. It was such a breeze. The new computers and softwares were really the biggest help in the show, and being more organized than ever too. And here we are. After 12 years, the show is going to have its 200th episode, and its fourth era is going to come to a close. Yeah. So how about the fifth era? So as of this recording, I just finished the fourth era, and I'm getting ready to do the fifth and maybe sixth era. But it's still in the preparation stages. So far, a lot of episodes are set up and organized and cataloged and ready to go. And I'm just getting myself physically and mentally ready to just do this. And I feel happy and confident and energetic as ever to really get into these eras of the Sergio show. I'm very excited and I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. Maybe this era has some Sergio related situations. Maybe you get to see more of Toon City. Maybe there could be themed seasons. Maybe there could be a movie in the future. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see in this crazy animated series. So in conclusion, making an animated series is never an easy thing, especially when you do it by yourself in a very young age with the most simplest of tools, but it does take not only a lot of work, but a lot of passion and learning and skills, and yes, even heart, to make an animated show like this. Ever since I finished making the very first episode, I knew this was going to be a series I was going to work on for a very, very long time, and this, believe it or not, is only the beginning. Yes, I've made some regrets and some mistakes, but doing an animated show in this unique way will create some trial and error. But as long as you learn from it and become a better cartoonist, better filmmaker, better person, then it's all worth it in the end. I hope that this is not only a big learning experience for me, but anybody else out there that wants to pursue and making an independent animated internet series. So that's it for now. I hope you learned something, as much as I've learned so many gosh darn things about making an animated internet series about myself. Anyway, thank you for listening and watching this multi-era video about the Sergio Show. Thank you very much for watching. I am Sergio Dominguez saying, have an animated day.